Nick, do you want to go ahead with a Tony Todd introduction? Nick, is your mic working? Did you hear me? The Tony Todd introduction to get us started with the Final Destination. What?
No, no, not this time.
No Tony Todd?
No, not this time. This movie does not deserve that.
Folks, have we hit our first roadblock, our first bump in the road in the Final Destination series, the first bad apple? Nick, are you saying that we've hit the first brick wall in the series?
I'm saying I'm surprised this movie got a sequel.
Well, did it though? Because a sequel would have been called The Final Destination Part 2, wouldn't it?
Either way,
This
I'm
is
surprised this movie got anything that came after this.
Well, unfortunately, I think maybe this actually hurt the box office of Part 5 because I think that the goodwill of the series was all ruined with this movie, thus making Part 5 not as successful, thus delaying Part 6 until finally now they're making one now. So this did
Allegedly.
actually, even though this wasn't actually damaged box office wise, this might have damaged Part 5's box office. So there were some repercussions from this movie being so terrible.
To be
The
fair,
biggest,
be
the
fair,
biggest repercussion. Go ahead.
be fair, this is also my first time ever watching this dang movie, so I had no idea what to expect, except everyone saying it's the worst one of the series.
So normally if you go with low expectations, that actually helps because you can then take the movie in without high expectations, take it for what it is. So you went in with low expectations and still came out disappointed.
Yes. And what's even
Wow.
worse is the first half of the movie, I was fine with it. Low budget BS, but whatever. It's really what the movie eventually becomes,
Huh.
which is an amalgamation of nothing.
I have to disagree. I have problems from the very opening scene of the movie, and those problems never stop all throughout. But first thing first, let me give some quick background on the movie because
I'll give
we have to.
one bit of background for this movie. I'm
Okay.
going to interrupt you by saying it. There's definitely one good thing about this movie that I almost thought this was going to be a great movie because of it. Devour by Shinedown.
It's a good song. No, not only that, the opening credits are awesome. Like they did something cool. They're showing the past deaths from the series in the opening credits. Now, I don't like it at the end, but I like it at the beginning. So the credits are good. So the credits make me think maybe we're going to see a decent movie. The movie came out in 2009, oddly titled The Final Destination, which actually makes you think that maybe they thought this was going to be the last movie in the series. But maybe it was so bad they figured we don't want to go out on a bad note and had to make Part 5. $40 million budget, most of which went to the 3D, which is going to be quite annoying throughout the movie. Without, when they make movies that are 3D and you watch it not in 3D, you kind of just are like, really?
Something tells me this movie in 3D still didn't do jack for it.
Well, unfortunately, I had the displeasure of seeing it in theaters in 3D.
Oh, so you had to pay money for this bullshit.
I'm extra bitter, extra annoyed because I saw it in theaters with my brothers, and I'm forgetting which movie we picked it over, but we had the choice between this movie and another movie, and another movie ended up being way better. By the time we didn't know, because of course you're paying to see in theaters because you're like, oh, well, the first 3 are great. It's in 3D. Yeah, let's give it a chance. There's so much goodwill built up, all ruined by the time I got out of the theater. The only good thing about the experience was the popcorn had just enough butter and just enough salt. I do remember that. But horrible experience. Terrible. Ruined my weekend. And on top of that, way back when I was became a Blu-ray collector, I bought the series on Blu-ray. It was one of those small little box sets, like a rinky-dinky box set that came with parts 1 through 4. And then going to review the series, I realized that it doesn't come with Part 5. It has Part 4. So now not only do I not have all the movies, the one movie I wish was left out is not the one that's left out. What's going on, man? What the hell? I don't understand. But anyways, $40 million budget. Do you know how much money it made worldwide, Nick?
I'm going to assume 0.
$160 million worldwide for The Final Destination, a movie that looks like it should have debuted on the Sci-Fi Channel. In fact, did very, very well contrary to what we think of the movie, it was a wild success in terms of box office. Made its money back like this.
All I gotta say to that is there's just some people who should not watch horror movies.
No, but think about this though. Now, well, here's the thing. I would say this. I got tricked in going theater because I was like, oh, the first three are great, but I saw it opening weekend. Shame on the people that saw it not on opening weekend, because by that time they should have heard the bad word of mouth, and they should have course corrected and waited for Tubi. So shame on those people. But something drove this box office to like crazy heights. Maybe 3D was so big back then that I don't know.
Well, I do know most movies, if they go to see it in 3D, is extra money you have to pay for it. Also, none of these movies are on Tubi, not even this one.
Yeah, I use Tubi as a frame of reference for everything that is not good, but I have to say Tubi's really come along now, and there's a lot of gems on Tubi. So I do have to update that to something different. It's got to be something lower than Tubi, though. I don't know what it is yet.
So believe it or not, there's a movie on Tubi. It's a Tubi original, and it has Melissa Barrera in it.
Oh wow,
It's called Bed Rest.
Interesting. Before Scream or after Scream?
I believe it's kind of in the middle between Screams 5 and 6.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Curious to see where her career goes going forward. Yeah, maybe my two frame of references for bottom of the barrel are usually, well, they used to be Tubi and the bottom of the $5 bin at Walmart. And I don't think I can use either because I don't know if Walmart still has a $5 bin.
They do.
And then Tubi's gone up. They do. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Where do you think I get half my movies? I wait until they get into the $5 bin.
I was going to ask you if you still are a frequent visitor of the $5 bin at Walmart, and do you find decent stuff there?
I can if I wait long enough.
Okay. Well,
this movie still ain't in it. That's how bad this movie is. It's not even in the $5 bin. It's not even in the $3 bin. You can't find it.
Dude, I'm mad that I bought it as part of the box set. Imagine people that actually bought this as an individual DVD by itself.
I feel like no one bought it individually. The only way they could sell it is in the box set. Just like Leprechaun Origins. The only way it can be sold is in the Leprechaun box set.
I'd like to think that's the case. I mean, we knew going in because remember we did that poll on our channel in which this movie was wildly unpopular, easily though the worst of the series amongst our peoples.
There was like one or two people who said this is their favorite though. So we're about to make two people mad at us.
Two people and Reseda. Yes. Well,
is that also in Toledo?
You know, they say there's a saying that one man's trash is another man's treasure.
So,
I don't know. It's the case with movies too. So,
I mean, this treasure is literally brown. If you catch my drift.
Well, hey. All right.
And I drifted because I tried to avoid the skid mark that this movie actually is.
Well, death really came for us hard in this one. And death was like, listen, you're not on the list to die, but you're on the list to watch a bad movie. And I was like, man, I want to be off that list too. I don't want to be on that list either. But Death was like, hey, man, once a month, you got to be on this list. So
something tells me that Death would have put us on his list if we did not watch this movie. Because Death seems desperate in this damn movie. Almost like it's making these characters seem like they are the most intelligent of characters that it's ever came up against.
Death is kind of needy in this movie. It's almost like his job is on the line with getting this mission done. But he's a little more laid back and chill in the other ones. And this one, he's kind of like, okay, I don't care how many people got to die. I don't care how much collateral damage there is. I got to get these people.
And there is a lot of collateral damage.
Oh my goodness, is there? Now, one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, though, I was researching this and something very interesting came up, though. The director of this movie. So the series, I know that each movie is kind of like standalone-ish, right?
Right.
But there is some threads of continuity in terms of the production. So parts 1 and 3 have the same director, James Wong.
Okay.
Now that's not the surprise part. The surprise part is parts 2 and 4 have the same director. So 1 and 3 is one director, 2 and 4 is another director. So the guy who made part 2 is the same guy who made this one, which is very interesting. Now, part 2 and 4 to me are the ones that don't have the strong characters. parts 1 and 3, I feel like, are the ones that have the strong characters. So you do notice the difference between those two and these two with the two different directors.
You know what else I noticed? Notice how you
Hmm.
just said one director made pretty much the worst two of the series, but another one made the best two of the series.
I guess that's true.
One,
And
and I was about to make the joke that this director or writer or whoever, with everyone who is involved with part 4 did not seem to watch the others.
which is impossible though, because it's the same director as part 2. Yeah, I mean, the director of part 2 is gonna know everything about the series. So, and
You
then
would
of course,
think.
I guess the director of part 5 was just like, listen, I want to go more towards 1 and 3. I don't want to be like 4.
No
Um,
one wants to be like 4.
yeah, I mean, it,
4 is
it
not
is.
even the redheaded stepchild.
Well, it's the least popular on a poll. It's the lowest rated on IMDb of the series. Box office, though, it did do very well. Um, all right, I guess we should jump into this opening sequence. The opening sequence, actually, it's pre-credits, which is the only time in the series where the opening disaster is before the credits. Um, my main problem, before we get into the specific deaths and all that stuff like that, my main problem with the opening sequence is that this series is supposed to play on like fears that you have, right?
Right.
Like on the highway, being behind a log truck, that's good. That stays in your psyche. Roller coasters is a big common fear. A lot of people go to theme parks and avoid roller coasters.
Yes.
Going over a bridge, going on a plane. These are all things where like they're natural fears we have. The problem with the race car thing is it's such a specific thing that I don't think anybody actually thinks about in a way where that would be like I don't think anybody's like scared to go to a race car track. I've never heard that being like a phobia or anything. So it's like you're picking something that very specific. Most people don't even go to a racetrack, and then the ones who do, I don't think they're like in the audience like tense and nervous. So it's not really
No.
playing on anything.
No, I don't know what the plan, what the thought process was putting it as a racetrack. I don't know if maybe the director's like, oh, the destruction of this place would look cool in 3D. I mean, it definitely, as you brought up, this movie was definitely made around the 3D. The 3D wasn't made around it.
You can tell so much when it's kind of like, okay, we want this specific 3D thing. Now, how do we throw that into the movie versus like it fitting with the story? Maybe literally just like the tire flying out the screen is like a 3D visual they want. But yeah, I'm just like, this is the lamest idea, a race car track, because most people are never going to actually experience being in a race car track, watching a race car thing. And then it's just not like a fear. I know there's crashes and stuff, but I don't think when you're watching that, you're actually like the plane, the bridge on the highway, that stuff. I'm like, ooh, that could happen to me. I'm not going. I mean, I don't. I guess if you're like you're a NASCAR fan, then it's like, oh my goodness. But even then, it's like I don't think you're like
Nah.
second guessing going to your next thing. You're like, oh well, that was
Also,
weird, but I guess
I just want to bring up one thing. If you see cracks in the concrete, leave.
yeah. Asking how old is this place? That's really not enough. I'd be like, now okay. So I guess we could talk about the actual premonition, which total CGI fest of
Oh,
nonsense. Oh
CGI
god.
fest of nonsense, the disgusting look. Did I mention this is also the worst looking of this movie? Not even the CGI, just the color scheme, everything they did with it. Just whole movie is disgusting to look at.
It has a very weird low budget look, which is crazy considering the budget. And then I'm just gonna call it out right now, and we can go into it more in detail as we go. But was so much of the budget spent on 3D that they didn't have enough money to hire actual actors? I mean, this is like the worst acting I've ever seen. Maybe this is like
But
badly written characters with bad actors. I don't know
at the
what's going
very
on.
least, we get a redhead.
I know you look for one in every movie, and that's your thing. But and I actually, you know what? I'm gonna say this. I will single her out in a positive way in terms of I think she gives the most effort, and she's the closest thing to a likable person in the movie, for me at least.
Besides
Uh,
George.
besides George. Um, but so I'll single her out as being she's not really bad. But what do you think about the actual premonition? It's all like CGI, generic, uncreative deaths. Just like a lot of characters die at the same time. Just something falls on them, or they get stabbed. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it is honestly boring to watch. Honestly, I mean, even though we just mentioned it makes no sense why they chose a NASCAR race, it could have been done really well.
Yeah.
But just the CGI, the bad looking any kind of graphics, even the actual gore that we get looks pitiful.
Yeah.
That honestly, if I didn't, I always said that this kind of movie, still this first half of this movie, is definitely it's bad, but it's B movie bad where you can still get some enjoyment because I was laughing at some of the stuff that was happening.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a parody of the other movies, though.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's in the same series. And the only creative thing about this opening is liquor in the binoculars. I mean, I guess that's a thing
That
to sneak some liquor in.
trust me, it's that's not that creative.
Oh, it's a known thing.
Especially for rednecks, yes.
I had this complaint about part 2, and this is the same director, so maybe it makes sense. In part 2, when stuff starts going down, right? All the cars just continue to speed through traffic like into chaos. When stuff starts blowing up and like you see people in the audience dying, the race cars ahead of you are exploding. All the race cars keep racing the track like normal. Like they keep just going around like
you not know how fast they're going.
But none of them like even like remotely slow down at all. They're just like they speed right through into more chaos.
Trust me, there's no slowing those things down as quickly as you're hoping.
When all the cars in front of them start exploding, like literally the race cars in front of them start exploding.
By the time you slow down, you're going to be inside the fire. It would be safer to try and go through it.
Okay. If that's normal for that, in the movie, the way it's filmed, it looks like they're just like worried about winning the race. They're like, oh, he blew up. I'm in first place now. It seemed like that, but if we're going with the idea that they can't slow down and it's smart to speed up, I get it. But it just seemed odd that like the race seems to keep going. But
no, trust me, it is actually from what I've granted, I've only been to a racetrack like this one time. But they were going so fast where I was in like the middle part of the bleachers and I was feeling the air the shockwaves from those cars beating me. So they're going fast enough to where if they would have tried to stop to avoid that crash, they would have just been midst in the fire.
But something happens where the strategy of like speed up doesn't work because they all seem to die too. It seems like all their cars randomly explode too. So I don't understand, but that's what it seems like.
Granted, to be honest with you, what I think they should have done is veered their vehicles like through the grass. The grass could have helped them slow down, and they would have hopefully avoided all the carnage that's happening in front of them.
Yeah.
But, and overall, for all we know, this took place at a real race. The one car that was supposed to kill everybody, it just happened to be the only CGI car, so all the other cars are in the middle of an actual race in real life.
I got to think that wouldn't be the case, though. But it doesn't make sense from a filming standpoint.
There's nothing that makes sense about this movie.
Yeah, the other thing is, the dude, his name is Nick, right?
Yes, the main guy.
So Nick has the premonition, and I think back to Devin saw one, the first one, his premonition. I think back to the premonition for part 2 from part 3. This dude has a premonition, and they cut back to him, and he has no facial expression going. He looks like he's like waking up from a nap. And then like 2 minutes go by where he's like, oh, calling things out, like what's going to happen. But at no point does he look worried or anything. There's no change in facial expression. There's no desperation. There's no, the plane's going to explode. Nothing. There's not even a sweat going down his head. This dude wastes 3 minutes. He could probably save half the people there by just quickly reacting, but he wants to be like a high stoner dude. Like, I don't know if the actor was just like made a choice to play it that way, but he has almost no reaction to the premonition. It's actually annoying watching it. I'm like, dude, you're calling things out, and he takes 3 minutes to put it together. It's like, and that's gonna be him the entire movie. Like he only has 2 facial expressions. he has like slightly worried, and then like everything is going fine. And that's like his only two facial expressions. Like, I don't understand how this dude
Well-
get hired to star in this movie.
Well, we're also talking about a movie where they make death either desperate or doesn't know how to do its own job.
Yeah, but I want to see the main characters at least like he takes about 3 minutes, then he's suddenly like, oh, we gotta get out of here. It's like, man,
I
You
wish
already
I would
doomed
have
at this
thought of that.
yeah, took you a long time to get to that one. Jeez.
Yeah, well, the carnage happened. We get a tire after everything. They finally get out, and a tire just bulldozes a woman, which was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen.
That's pretty insane. I gotta admit, in the theater, everybody laughed at that.
I
There
was
was a
laughing
big-
too.
There was a big laughter there. I did think it was odd that the one dude left his wife there inside.
Oh, racist.
Yeah, because he's like, okay, if you're gonna leave the stadium and confront somebody, why are you telling your wife like stay here? It's like,
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is, I mean, I know he just got beer thrown on him by accident, but what was the point of even leaving to go confront him anyway? It's not like he went up and just started swinging on anybody.
I didn't understand that either. Why would you, if you're that into watching the race, why would beer being spilled on you mean like you're gonna like leave to go do what exactly?
Apparently, just talked to him. Was like, "What's wrong with you, freak?" It's like, "Boy, I will mess you up."
By the way, according to IMDb, the character's name
It's racist.
racist. I mean, I know of lazy writing, but sweet Jesus.
Yeah, well,
This
racist is next to die.
I apparently the goal of this movie was to be like, hey, listen, this is the first time we want to cheer death on. We want death to take out this list of characters, apparently. Anyways,
So yeah,
premonition.
racist is next to die. These
Mhm.
premonitions that he gets throughout this movie is just I got a
nobody-
migraine watching this movie.
Nobody would be able to make sense of what he sees. He sees all these random things and nobody would be like, oh, that makes sense to me. It's like, what's the point of seeing a vision if the vision makes no sense at all?
I mean, it made sense on my second. The vision made sense my second watch.
I'm talking about for him to react to things. I mean, and his visions don't usually help anybody in the movie either. Everybody dies. He doesn't really save anyone. I mean, I guess at the end, but racist dude. It's funny that the song "Why Can't We Be Friends" is playing, but it's otherwise the death is too comedic. It feels like when he catches on fire, it feels like I'm watching like an Adam Sandler comedy. It
I
doesn't feel like
thought you were going to
normal.
say Nightmare on Elm Street, like one of the later Nightmare on Elm Streets where he's trying to be funny.
I mean, I guess this does feel Freddy's Deadish, but it's like it's him being dragged on the street with that song playing and like on fire. It's like we're not supposed to be cheering for death in this movie. I don't understand like why they're making death the protagonist by him like going after racist, stupid characters. What the hell?
Well, if you want Death to go after someone who should be more likable, let's go talk about MILF for a second here.
Again, that's the character's name in the IMDb. Who the hell? She didn't even garner an actual name. What this is a complete sidebar. What's your take on the because this reminded me of the laundromat that my parents owned. What's your take on the showing up somewhere 10 minutes before closing? I actually don't have that much of a problem with it. If you're open till 6, you have to expect sometimes people will come in before 6.
Yeah.
But they acted like she was like the worst person in the world for coming in 10 minutes before closing. I get it means you have to stay later now, but there should be something where you lock the door then, or you don't let people in at a certain point. If you're open till 6 and the door's open, people are gonna walk in. So,
or maybe just like what your parents had at the laundromat, where it says last load in by certain time.
Yes.
They should have something like that on there, so that way the woman could then go, according to our door, last call was so and so time, meaning you go bye bye.
Yes,
Even though you never followed it.
I was very kind and nice. I let people in, but all the time, basically.
Yeah,
Because once they came in, I didn't have the heart usually when they came in to like be like, oh, take your big thing of clothes and go find somewhere else. So I couldn't. I was a sucker. So, all right. So let's see here. Yeah, the MILF's death, I would say again.
First off, it was a fake out for one. That really annoyed me. Just so they can get her to leave earlier, just for a rock to shoot into her eyeball.
Fake outs are good in these movies if they're fun, but that really didn't do anything for me.
I feel like it would have been better if the damn ceiling fan just slammed into her head. That would have been better.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get anything out of this death. And then the mechanic's death, again.
Gearhead.
He made a good point, though. He's like, I work in a dangerous environment. If death wanted to kill me, I'd already be dead.
And then gets smashed into a damn fence with, again,
terrible CGI.
I'm getting a migraine just thinking about that fucking scene.
Looks like
that had to be the worst CGI.
Looks like we were watching a cartoon. But does Death have a thing where like he wants other characters to be present to see the person die? Because he's right. Why is Death waiting specifically for that moment? Because Death's like almost like giving them a chance to intervene. So it's almost like, why wouldn't he just take him out earlier? He waits till the other characters can see it. I don't know.
I don't know, because this isn't like part 3 where it felt like Death was just having fun to mess with our main character. This one, it just, like I said, it feels like Death doesn't know what the hell it wants to do.
True. Well, the good thing for our characters in this movie is that they're going to go online and do some research, which happens a lot in these movies because there's been past incidents, and these characters get to dive into the research and make some conclusions and come up with some good theories. And what does our main character come up with based on his research?
Based on his research is pretty much our intervening rule. But what he says is, if you intervene in someone's death, it can break the chain. But sometimes breaking the chain doesn't always get it. You have to break the chain completely is exactly what he says. Boy! You even said, and not even right before saying all that, he even says, these guys from Flight 180 got off and now they're all dead.
So everybody being dead, no survivors. Yet he surmises that, hey, maybe there's some kind of plan that works here. But how, Sway, if they're all dead, how is there any plan that works?
Well, what annoys me is actually this movie apparently got talked about. This one and the next movie we're going to review got talked about so much. There were scenes where my wife refused to watch it, including
really?
Hunt's death. Because the way I guess it was described to her, it sounded gorier and actually very disturbing. The way they did it in the movie just made me go, what the hell is wrong with you?
You know, this is a scene that people actually like. People like the pool thing. Like it's supposedly it's one of the more memorable deaths in the series, apparently. But I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I mean, I guess that the good thing about it is that it does play into maybe an actual possible fear of something that could happen in the swimming pool. That's probably happened before. People got like caught in the suction or whatever.
But then we also get Janet going through something, because obviously Hunt and Janet died at the exact same time in the premonition.
Now let's talk about that for a moment, though. There's an assumption that they died at the same exact time, but did they really die at the exact? I would think death would be technical enough where it'd be like, did they really actually die at the exact same second, though? Somebody probably died before the other one.
Something tells me this death just doesn't understand what the hell is doing anyway. So I don't think it cares or is that tactful.
The characters just make an assumption, but there probably is an order for them. It's just the characters don't know what the order is.
Can I also mention one other thing? Bird shit is not brown.
That was an interesting choice. Yeah, usually it's white, isn't it?
Yes, white and like green. Whatever. I used to have a bird. So granted, that was an African gray. This is a pigeon, maybe pigeon shit brown. I don't know.
It was the leprechaun like flying in the sky or something. It was like the leprechaun got him.
Wouldn't that be gold?
No, there's one Leprechaun movie where like the guy's doing the magic trick and he turns something in his hand into his
Polish
own.
it.
Yeah. Anyways, uh, shows how twisted my mind is to think about that. But, I did also I liked the car wash setup. That feels like okay, that should be like a fun death in the series, but then it's not actually a death, so it's kind of like wasted a little bit.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is so she's going toward her head's out so she can breathe, but now she's going towards like the mechanical bristle thing.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out would those bristles actually kill somebody?
Well, we'll never find out, but I'm sure they would have figured out a way for her to get like CGI decapitated.
Or maybe what it was is the people making the scenes like, wait, are we sure those bristles would actually kill someone? Let's just save her so we don't have to try and explain that part.
Well, I don't like either character, her or Hunt, so
Hunt.
I'm cheering for both of them to die because
By the way,
Hunt's got to be the worst, most unlikable character they've ever put in these movies.
well, yeah, he went to that NASCAR race just to watch a crash. He even had a bet on it. And also, you want to know what the girl name that he was having sex with? You want to hear what her name was in this movie? Girl on Top.
Man.
I mean, I know she was a nothing character that again show us why we shouldn't like Hunt, but come on now.
Let me see who wrote the movie. I know the director, but I want to see what other movies they wrote after this. Let's see. Eric Bress.
Eric no longer write movies.
Okay, so he wrote part 2.
Oh. How does he go from part 2 to this?
Wow, he wrote The Butterfly Effect. Wow.
So this tells me there's going to be a loss in translation now that I've heard that.
He wrote a pretty good, like, complex screenplay, and then from there, this seems to be the only other real mainstream movie was The Final Destination. So wow. So Final Destination 2, Butterfly Effect, and then this piece of trash.
Which tells me,
well, did he use all of his imagination up on like all his mojo got used up on The Butterfly Effect? I guess. Because I like that movie, so I'm like I'm shocked. Well, okay.
After saving Janet, Nick sees an ominous message plus George's failed suicide attempts. Must mean they are safe.
Now, wait a minute. Let's spend 30 seconds on George's failed suicide attempts. Because it's not the order for him to die. Death doesn't let him kill himself.
Well, we didn't know that at first. Originally, we thought everyone originally died. We didn't know Mr. Cowboy survived.
But this thing about death not letting you kill yourself. How far does that go? Are they literally invincible? If he jumps off a bridge, will they survive?
So, I'm going to talk about this because it's not the main ending, but the original ending for this movie was Nick grabbing a hold of one of those canisters. It's still at the mall, but Nick grabs holds on to one of those pressurized canisters, then jumps out the window to hit a cop car and explode. Wow. And remember, this is also before his death, because technically death should be going after Laurie next.
Because he thought taking himself out would like break the chain.
Exactly. Granted, and then the that one piece of equipment that you see hanging over the mall that Janet said, "Oh, that could kill somebody." Yeah, that ends up dropping on top of both of them.
I don't think I would have liked that ending any more than I liked the original ending, to be honest. So,
fuck you. Anyway,
your house is falling apart over there. that felt like the kind of random thing that happens in one of these death design plans. So.
No, I just accidentally like hit my phone, and it just went flying.
If the wind blew it, then you got to be a little bit suspect. So.
Well, that was another thing. Nick actually said he felt something grab his shoulder.
Well, again, this feels like death has like a promotion line or something. Like he can't get that raise without. Like these feels more invested in terms of the amount of work he's putting in with this one. So maybe, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, I do have a theory, but I'm going to save it for our next one because it makes a little bit more sense saying it there.
Yeah, and again, all throughout the movie, again, I'm not saying the movie would have been good with a better actor. And I read that, I sort of understand because I read that because the 3D setup, the shots took a long time to set up. So there'd be days apparently where the actors were just sitting on set for hours waiting for one scene to be set up. So by the time they got to the filming, their energy level, everything was probably down, right? So I understand that, but he's just not selling any kind of desperation or worriness throughout the movie.
You
He's
know
just
what they
very, very laid back throughout, very stone faced the entire movie.
you know what they should have done? While they were setting up the 3D scenes, they could have had our characters, I don't know, filming another scene.
Yeah, maybe, but the problem with that is you got the main dude in almost all the scenes, it feels like. So he's always showing up on the scene, he's always involved. So but you could have probably made it a little bit more better. I mean, I don't know. The energy is low. When George is giving that speech about how his I guess his
His
wife and
wife,
kids had died in a car accident,
yeah, because he was drunk.
he's so monotone when he's the way he's saying it. It almost feels like an actor giving the line instead of like the character actually saying the line.
Yeah, because you think that should be an emotional moment.
He's so like just so monotone when he says it. That's like okay.
And that's the best actor of the whole damn movie. And that's
well, he's the most likable, but it's like I don't know. It's just kind of like this movie has unlikable characters. The characters are supposed to like outside of the main girl. What's the main girl's name?
Lori.
Lori. She seems emotionally invested to a degree. Janet is just like again so unlikable and so annoying to me. I'm just like, why'd you say her from the car wash? That means she has to be on screen for another 6 minutes. It just ruined the movie more. And then the main guy is just like the main guy. You know what movie he would have been a good fit for? The Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Because in that movie,
You're putting that bad juju on him.
well, remember, all the characters there were sleep deprived. They hadn't got enough sleep, so they were giving low energy performances, but it made sense in the story because they hadn't slept all night. He belongs right there. He should have been Rooney Mara's boyfriend in the Nightmare remake. Anyways.
You're just giving me another reason to hate that remake now.
Well, okay, so let's talk about Cowboy Guy because I guess because he didn't move spots, he originally was supposed to die.
So I'm assuming he was originally supposed to die because actually in the premonition it shows him being completely smashed by another car up against a concrete pillar. But it just feels weird because because he didn't die in the he never left the event, so he didn't die in the event. And honestly, in part one, I'm going to bring up part one because I just remember this. Remember how Alex was technically supposed to be last on death's list because he wasn't supposed to move, I guess. Right. But he ended up moving, so he would have ended up dying first. But that kind of the fact that death's list changed there because in real life he did something, whereas in the premonition he was supposed to stay in the back.
Right.
How come death's list didn't change here since in real life our cowboy didn't actually die?
I don't know. And it's a weird plot point they introduced out of nowhere. And again, you really don't care about the cowboy dude's death at all. So
because we don't know the cowboy dude.
Yeah.
How about we get to our climax, shall we? There's nothing else we need to talk about here.
Well, I was going to ask George. There's assumption that George is next, and George obviously is going to get hit by a bus.
Ambulance.
Probably driven by Tony Todd, but off screen maybe.
Probably because Tony Todd ain't in this movie at all. Not even his voice. Not even his name. Nothing.
Let's talk about George being next.
He got hit by ambulance.
No, let's go back to the premonition though. Didn't him and Lori die at the same time?
Yes.
They burned at the same time from the premonition.
Yes.
Why are these characters making this big assumption? George's like, and I'm next. Huh? It's the same scenario as Hunt and Janet. They die at the same time.
So you'd think that death should be going after Lori and George at the same time.
or there's a strong possibility that maybe Lori died first. I don't understand why they just had this logic and then they don't apply it to the next scene.
Because let's face it, who wants to see a dead redhead?
I got some joy out of the end of the movie, so I guess me.
Yeah, but you were seeing her skeleton. You weren't seeing her.
I would have enjoyed to see her actually explode also. Okay, yeah, this premonition, this whole ending being a premonition is a little bit much for me. The entire thing. It's like that's a long premonition he has. We're talking about he has a 15-minute premonition.
About that, yeah.
That's kind of stretching what a premonition is when you're seeing that much at once. Like that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen for that long. That amount of stuff.
Right, and it's just it's definitely another thing that shows Death is desperate because he's literally going after just 2 girls in the mall.
Yep.
And so he decides to kill thousands.
He's like, I'm gonna create the biggest massacre in the history of this area just to get these 2 people.
I mean, and what's even worse is you can argue that part 3 did the same thing with the train, but even you brought up that originally the 2 roommates were actually supposed to be our 2 characters from part 2. So it kind of makes sense that Death would want to just take all 5 of them out at once, so he does this big thing with the train.
Yeah, the thing is, like, there's a couple problems with it. And by the way, I should mention I do like the whole escalator setup. I know it's just a premonition, but that would have been a good death escalator thing. The premonition ends like not in time to save George. It's crazy to me that it ends right when George gets hit by the ambulance.
George, look out! Boom!
Like you couldn't have ended it 5 seconds there. You could have said, "George, watch out." I mean, jeez.
Or maybe punch or like pushed him away.
Yeah.
Or grab him and pull him.
After the premonition, I mean, I guess he goes to the back theater room to like kind of put out the fire, but shouldn't there be like some theater employees there somewhere, like in that back room or something? Someone around there?
Remember that back room is a giant construction area. Unless you are a construction worker, you know, with the safety gear, the hard hat, and the knowledge to actually use these tools, no one's allowed to be in there.
Okay. And then when he stops that from happening, hasn't he now intervened for everybody in the theater and stopped their death from happening?
Yeah, well, we did. There's
he made them all basically cheat death, essentially.
Yeah, but what we didn't actually see, that's not an alternate ending, it's not anything, but what we didn't see is after that truck from part 2 and 3 decides to just bulldoze them, it then goes through the entire town and bulldozes the entire town. There's a reason why McKinley is not in the 5th movie.
That town, that truck is like Death's like truck for hire. It's lifting so much heavy weight throughout these movies. There's always a truck that's like finishing the job that Death started.
I guarantee you, I bet it's the Creeper's truck.
Rusty Nails sounds better though. So.
Oh, okay. It's Rusty Nail then.
Death promised him a second date with Candy Cane if he helps him out. Candy Cane, maybe, I don't know. All right, so
Ted Levins to do that then.
All right, so explain that to me because he intervenes, he saves Janet and Lori, and then he's like, "Oh well, everything's okay now, huh?"
Except it's not, because then he goes, "What if I got that premonition to save y'all from all that happening just to get us here?"
Which is a new theory so he's hitting at the idea that, all of this was just Death's plan. Like Death really went out of his way like crazy because this is all part of the plan. That's like, I think you're wrong, but
I think he is too, but we don't have to deal with him no more.
Yeah, you're still on the list. Although the name of the place they're having coffee at is Death by Caffeine. Amazing.
That's where Tony Toshio came out with the fucking
as a barista. As a
barista, and one of the things he does is like body art on the coffee.
Enjoy your order. That was a terrible title. Yeah, would you go to any place like that has like a restaurant that has death in the title, like right after that? Like, oh, death by caffeine.
After
Yeah.
all that I went through, no.
Usually I complain about in this series about not leaving any survivors, but in this case, I'm gonna just come out and say it. I'm glad these people died. I don't feel not an inch of sympathy for any of these last three characters. And the movie just left me when they got hit by the truck at the end and you cut to the weird skeleton thing. Just like, yeah, okay. I don't know if that made sense. But
It didn't, but at the same time, remember that truck then went through the entire town, killing anyone that was in that mall. So the town of McKinley is no more. Death just wiped that off the face of the earth with a truck.
well, everybody in that mall who didn't die, like I said, they have their own list now. So that truck had to take them all out. So the movie's only an hour and 22 minutes long.
It felt longer.
It is so short because there's no tension in the death scenes. There's no character
nothing.
development. Nothing. Who made this movie? Oh, the guy from Part 2. The director.
But he had some good death scenes in Part 2. So what happened here? 3D.
Part 2 seemed much better made. I don't understand. Maybe 3D was really a detriment to this movie because, yeah, some of those shots, it's just like feels like you're watching a silly cartoon.
Did you just say detriment?
Detrimental.
You had to throw a pun in there?
It was detrimental, this movie. So, well, yeah, of course. All right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we can sum it up by saying this movie's a piece of shit. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw out the.
Can you throw up the bullshit tag?
I gotta create it because.
I thought you had it. There you go. See.
All right. Well, we still gotta give
this one a number.
No, we gotta give it. You want to go first? Or we go first?
I'll go first. So I'm going to start off with the positives. Devour by Shinedown. Now let's go into the negatives. You got bad acting, bad CGI, extremely terrible 3D effects, just lazy writing in general, and characters so stupid that they don't know where their ass is from their head. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a half a star because it's bullshit.
Because I don't have the option for that. We're gonna go ahead and round it up
to 1 star.
Yeah.
Don't you have like 2.5 and 3.5? What the hell is this 1 star bullshit?
Yeah, but here's the thing: 1 star is so bad. I don't feel like you should even go below that because it's like
I want to give it 0, but I don't think I'm allowed.
Yeah, you got it. Just for being a movie, you have to give it at least 1 star. Well, we'll establish 1 star is our worst rating you can give, basically.
Okay, fine.
Because if you're gonna give it 0, there's no difference between 0.5 and 1 star. It's basically saying it's like one of the worst movies. Okay. Now for me, I'm going to say this. In a so bad, it's watchable way, I'm gonna bring it up to 1.5 stars. I don't like the movie. It's terrible. But I don't think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'm gonna actually reserve 1 stars for like if a movie triggers is like one of the worst movies ever. I'm gonna go 1 stars. If there's any redeeming quality, I would just say
I'm waiting for that redeeming quality here.
I would say that it's watchable. So basically, even though you don't like it, it's not boring at least. So if all those bad things were there plus it was boring, that would be the 1 star for me. So I'm gonna go 1.5 because it at least has some entertaining nonsense in there. But 1.5 still means I'm not recommending it. The thing is, if you're marathoning the series,
you can skip it.
I don't know. I feel like you have to watch all of them though.
Nah. Do you need to watch all the Leprechauns?
I guess it's a philosophical thing because it feels like for some people, they have to watch everything in the series just as a completionist. The Leprechaun is different though because that one that you're talking about, it's really not a part of the series. This one at least is part of the series. You can't say Leprechaun Origins is a Leprechaun movie. That's like a whole different thing.
But it took place in Ireland.
This has the same director as part 2. This is definitely part of the series. So
but
I'd
it
say
doesn't have Tony Todd.
you got to watch it, but you can hate watch it.
I'm not watching it for shit anymore. This was the last time.
Well,
like I said, I'm planning on burning this shit.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to put that on the list of movies that we could do a watch along or something like that. I need to know the movies that Nick hates because if he loses a bet or I have to torture him with something, I can always go back to the Final Destination now. So that's good. Good stuff.
Really?
There was a benefit to watch this movie. Now I know a movie that Nick truly hates, and I can bring that back. So perfect. I love it.
Yeah, same with your Troll 2.
Hey, I love Troll 2.
I hate it.
So Troll 2, The Final Destination. Folks, make a running count with me. We got to make a list of all the movies that Nick hates because we'll have to bring them back and torture them Saw style with these movies. All right, folks, next week, Final Destination Part 5 as we complete Final Destination month, which something that will, no question, no doubt, be an improvement over what was a piece of trash, The Final Destination.
And as always, you don't have to go home. You do have to remind yourself, if you're in rock bottom, there's only so far you can go down. You might as well start climbing back up. Because that's exactly what this series did.
Well said.